Hello, it's some dust or something. I'm here today because I wanted to do a tier list for a very specific scenario, and allow me to lay out that scenario for you real quick. You need to put together a group to face another group, and you want to know which dinos are the best to have on your side so that you can come out victorious. Well, I'm going to do that today. This is the which dinos to group with tier list. So this is going to be quite a bit different from the last one I did, which was 1v1, because it's a whole other can of worms when you look at these things from the perspective of helping other dinosaurs out. And nothing's going to make that clearer than this first ranking. We have Albertoceratops, which was A in my 1v1 tier list. How is it in a group, though? I think in a group, B, potentially even C. And I say that because not only does Albertoceratops not do anything for the group other than damage output, but its charge tends to hit its teammates a lot. And I know that depends on the player, but pretty much anything with a charge, you are running the risk of hitting your teammates, and it's no good. Now, next is Alioramus, which I think was in D in the 1v1. But actually, when it comes to a group tier list, I'm putting Alioramus in A, above Albertoceratops. Not only is this thing fast, it can be used a couple of different ways. It's especially good if you're a Tyrannosaurid. If you're running Tyrannosaurus Rex, if you're running Despelito, if you're running another Alioramus, this thing has Tyrant's Roar, which means that it's going to raise your attack by, I think, 1.11. And that's a multiplier that's stackable. So you stack your own, and before you know it, your damage output's insane. So it's good for that, but if you're not a Tyrannosaurid, this thing is still pretty good, because what it can do is hang around the outskirts of the battle, maybe get some hit and runs in, and the minute somebody tries to run off to heal, boom, you've got Alioramus on them. They're not going to get away from this thing, and they're going to have a hard time hitting it because of how speedy it is. Okay, next is Allosaurus. C. Doesn't really do much for a group. It's going to be less effective in a group than Albertoceratops. Doesn't really have any buffs it can apply or anything like that. Its attacks are usually pretty wide. I'm talking specifically about its tail attack, but also its claw. So there's always the risk of being hit by it. Just doesn't really do much. Amargasaurus. C for the same reason as Allo, probably a little worse. Anodonto. Anodonto, you know, somebody mentioned that the way to deal with it is when it's in its hunker down mode, you just don't mess with it, right? And that raises a good point. When it's in a group and there's a lot of chaos going on, if there's heat on it, it can hunker down and become a punching bag so that members of your group can just run on whatever's fighting it. And if it's not the focus, it can get bone breaks in. It's not particularly fast at doing that, but I think those alone mean that Anodonto belongs in S. And speaking of things that belong in S, we have Barsboldia. Barsboldia, not only great damage output, but it can boost the defenses of its herd mates, which is huge. Next we have Campto. Campto, surprisingly, not that bad in a group setting. It's not going to do a ton of damage, but this does something similar to the Alioramus, where it can stay on top of things. Anything tries to run away, the Campto's got eyes on it. A lot of times you'll hear these talked about, and they're called scouts, and that's because this thing's very good at, you know, being a speedy little dude who can keep an eye on things. Somebody tries to lay down, it can get on them and get some bites in. It doesn't do anything else, though. Maybe it's a good cheerleader. It's a good little team mascot. But for what it is, Campto, I think, should go in D. It has some utility there. Cerato, S. Cerato is S for the simple fact that it is the fastest moving bone breaker. If you were in a group with a Cerato, you distract something, the Cerato can get behind it and bone break it. It's done. It's done. This thing is super scary in a group. I think Cerato is a fantastic group dinosaur. And another one that's pretty good is the Concavinator. Concavinator, the Conch, can get bleed in. Pretty agile little dude. Doesn't have any direct buffs to its pack mates, but I think it belongs in C. Next is Despleto. Does the same thing as Cerato, though it is a little lower, a little slower, that is. But it also has Tyrant's Roar, which means if you're running a Tyrannosaurid, this thing can boost your attack. And for that, I think it belongs in front of Alioramus in A. The only thing Alio really has above it is the speed. It can kind of perform tasks that Despleto can't. You can lose a Despleto kind of easily. Not so easy to lose an Alio. But it gets the Tyrant's Roar and it gets the Bone Break, and there's utility there. Deinonychus doesn't do anything big for its group, except for take a lot of hits and dish out a lot of damage, putting it in B. Is that Deinonychus? Okay. Deinonychus, it can boost the speed of other raptors. It can get bleed off. Now that bleed's not going to be substantial if it bites something big, but say it bites something small, that keeps the combat timer going. Kind of does the same thing as Alio. It's good at keeping up with things, not losing things. I've seen these used very effectively in that way. They don't attack until something's trying to get away. I think Dinon is way stronger in a group than it is solo. I think in a group, Dinon, it was an F in the last tier list. It's going in D. This is Eotrike. Eotrike doesn't have any direct boost. It is a charger, which means there's always the chance of it hitting a teammate. It happens to the best of us. I've seen it so many times. More of just a good basis for your group. So I'm going to put Eotrike actually... Yeah, I'm going to put it below Deinonychus simply because Deinonychus can at least go in the water after things. Iguanodon... Can go in the water after things as well. Can't dive though, it's just a good swimmer. Performs bleed, doesn't have good stamina. I think Iguanodon in a group, for what it is, bottom of C, probably. Kintro can be really good in a group. Kintro has a ton of stamina. This is another one that can sneak up and get a lot of bleed off. I think if you're playing Kintro in a group, your best bet is to get on something that's attacking your group mates, and when they turn around to hit you, that's when you turn tail and you take the heat off of them. I think you're really good at that. If you can use your charging tail as an oppressive attack, you're going to get a lot of bleed off on something, and if anything tries to chase you, you're going to get a lot of bleed off on it. I think Kintro's really good for a group. I'm going to put Kintro at bottom of A. This is Lambio. Lambio's going straight to S. In fact, I'm going to put Lambio at... I'm going to put it before Barsboldia. Does it go before Anodonto? I don't know. Anodonto, for what it's worth, Anodonto is pretty solid in a group. Like I said, because it can hunker down and be a punching bag or bone break, and it's got the stamina to run things down if they try to get away from the fight. And that makes it really tough to beat in a group. I see tons of Ano groups. Lambio, though, can heal, as well as doing some pretty respectable DPS. So, that's why Lambio goes there. Latin is going to go with Dinon and Campto and D. Megalania. Megalania. Decent damage. Can swim and dive. Does stamina drain. Pretty fast. I see no reason why Megalania shouldn't go above Dasp. Anything that can drain stamina is very scary, especially if you have something that can go in the water. Meg can be pretty devastating. If you get a group of Megs together, it can just be chaos. I think I'm pretty comfortable with putting that above Dasp and A. What is that? Metri. Same thing as Megalania. In fact, I'm going to say Metri is even better than Megalania, simply because it's got the extra stamina. It can do the Alio thing, where it can chase things forever without running out of stamina. Plus, it has the Venom Draining Bite. I think Meg is just... or not Meg, Metri is just an incredible group dino. It belongs to go in us. Packy. Good at keeping up with things. It's got the knockback. I think Packy belongs... Let's put Packy in the top of C. I think these things can be very chaotic and very disruptive. They're one of those that can shoot in when you're focused on something else and catch you off guard. And for that matter, Pygnomiosaur does the same thing. Pycno. How do I feel about Pycno? It's got better knockback at least. So for that reason, as well as the better combat stats, I think Pycno is bottom of B probably. Sarcosuchus. If you are a group that's around some water, say your Spine Lizard Lagoon, your Little Brook Meadow, your Grassland Lake, Riverland, any of those, Sarcosuchus is an S. If you're out of the water, you almost hold the group up. You're not going to sneak up on anything while they're fighting. You have the bleed, which is cool. You don't buff your group. If you're in the water, though, you are insane. You can catch things off guard. Something tries to run off and heal, you can lunge out and grab it. I mean, the utility is there. I think Sarco in a group deserves to go top of B. Spino doesn't do anything specific for its group. It belongs around the same level as Dinocurus. I'm even going to put it a little behind Dinocurus, even though it's heavier, so it's going to be doing more damage. It is worse with stamina. Although yeah, these two are pretty much interchangeable, I think. Stego. Stego is great. Stego kind of, it can hunker in one place and pivot and draw a lot of attention to itself and get a lot of bleed off, and that makes it very effective. Does it do anything else for a group, really? Not really. It can't really stay on things either. I think Stego is going to go under the Kent. Struthi does the Alio thing. I'm not super good at it, though. I mean, other than just being annoying and chasing things and keeping an eye on them, which Campto and them can do too, so I'm going to put it in D. Sterako is super good in a group, actually. Sterako. Good stamina, fairly fast, applies bleed. A lot of cool things to talk about with Sterako. The bleed in and of itself is so much stronger when you're in a group. I put Alberta in B because, well, if you're running it in a super effective way, you're probably not going to be running Bite on it, which is its only chance to cause bleed. You're kind of slow, so it's hard to stay on top of things. Sterako doesn't have either of those. Sterako can put bleed on something and stay out of trouble and keep up with things. I think Sterako is really scary in a group. I think these things are super, super effective in a group. I'm going to put it top of A. Suko, in a lot of ways, it performs like the Aloe. Can go in the water, so for that alone, I'm going to have to put it above the Aloe. I'm going to put it probably below EO. And lastly, we have Tyranno. Tyrannosaurus can bone break. Tyrannosaurus can boost other Tyrannosaurus attacks. Tyrannosaurus has a charge. Tyrannosaurus can be a punching bag. Tyrannosaurus is very strong in a group. I'm going to put Tyrannosaurus. It is slow though. It's hard to keep up with things. I think I'm going to put Tyrannosaurus under Lambia. So it's got a lot of great things it can work with there. I'm actually surprised Anodonto's S. I didn't plan this out beforehand. I'm just going through it. Dinos in general, you'll notice there's no ERF here, and I think that's because when you put dinos in a group, their best traits are amplified. And I think any dino can be a decent addition to a group. But yeah, if I was putting a group together, these are the kind of guys I would go for sure. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that, actually. Thank you all so much for watching. Please feel free to leave your comments below. And yeah, have a good day.